America's two great pastimes collide on this podcast. It is baseball and making money. From the dog days of summer through the October Classic, Greg Bases Peterson's going to be free swinging at the betting board as he tries to hit a grand slam for your bankroll. Now here is GP.
Wonderful Sunday to one and all. Greg Peterson broadcasting from the Azuñia Tequila Studios out here in lovely Las Vegas for MLB Overtime Betting. It is a great day as it has been a great month so far in baseball, and we got to keep it rolling with a tremendous guest as Christian Pina. He does a great job doing some podcast work for the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, including his Inside Vegas podcast. He is going to be joining me in the second segment. In the final segment, I give you a side and total on every game on the Las Vegas betting board as we touch them all. But first, we got a very good question into the Twitter mailbag today, so let's dive into it.
So you have questions, and Greg may or may not have any insight into them, but let's dive into the Twitter mailbag.
I truly enjoy this one as it comes in from Dylan Johnson. You can follow him at DylanJ925 at unit_D1. I was wondering, do you mostly stick to stats and numbers when capping? Like there being a mental issue with the Tigers after blowing such a huge lead and being on the road? ? If it being positive or negative, do you involve these things with your handicapping? And the answer is abso-darn-lutely you have to. One of these things that stats don't point out is just watching games with your own two eyes can give you a good read on a team. You can just get a little bit of a vibe, and there are letdown spots. We always have this in college basketball where you have like a revenge spot. You have a team that's in a little bit of a scheduling trap, everything like that. These are all things that are playing into it. A good example was when the Reds and the Braves had their super long rain delay a couple days ago. It was a 2-hour and 42-minute rain delay. Game gets done past midnight Eastern time, and both teams have to hit the road. That was the spot where I faded both teams. Now, it wound up being a split as the Reds were able to knock off the St. Louis Cardinals the next day, but the Braves wound up losing as a massive favorite, so by essentially splitting those two, I was able to make a very nice profit off of it because you just thought that both those teams were going to be very tired. I took the under in both those games, and well, one cashed and one didn't, of course, but it is one of those things where I certainly do look at some of these things. I do look at flat spots. I do look at guys that just sometimes seem to perform well and perform bad in some spots, like David Price, for example, at Yankee Stadium. He just has never had success. And then there are some guys like Jack Flaherty. He doesn't necessarily do the best against the Milwaukee Brewers. These are all things that I take a look at, and sometimes it is just seeing. You have to also just try to gauge who is coming out of the bullpen, who you think is going to have success, who you think might just have a little bit of issues as well. There are guys that they might look good on paper, but when you watch them live, it's like, what the heck is this? Like Shane Bieber, the Cleveland Indians starter. Very good example of this. He has so many balls that get hit to the warning track whenever he's out there. It's a very herky-jerky ride, but he seems to always get out of it. It's one of those things where sometimes you just have to watch games. You have to try to gauge the mentality of a team. So I certainly do look at the numbers and everything like that. That is a lot of my handicapping, but I always believe that no matter what sport it is, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, if you're betting like weightlifting, you have to watch some of this. You just can't go off of a stat sheet alone to do your bets. Now, obviously, the stats are big, the splits are big, but you have to use your own two eyes as well. So a great question there. And you know what? I was watching a lot of games yesterday in baseball, so let's give you guys a recap of yesterday's action and find some bettable trends from it.
So who's streaking and who is slumping? It is time for Rakers and Fakers.
The Orioles look like they're turning into the Orioles that we expected from all along. They did at one point have a 2-1 lead over the Minnesota Twins in the fifth inning as Jose Barrios, one of our favorite pitchers, wound up giving up those 2 runs. As for the Baltimore Orioles, they were able to get a nice RBI out of Rio Ruiz, but from there, the Minnesota Twins just dump trucked the Orioles in the final couple innings, hanging a grand total of 8 runs from the 6th through the 8th innings to get a 9-2 win. These Minnesota bats just continue to be on fire. Marwin Gonzalez, a guy that has been struggling this year to say the least, still hitting below the Mendoza line. He wound up going deep. That was his second home run of the year. They got a nice home run out of Jason Castro. That was his second home run of the campaign. Max Kepler goes deep twice for his fifth and sixth. And then CJ Cron does some yard work as well. His fifth home run of the campaign. Barrios winds up going 6 innings, gives up 2 runs. He is now 4-1. Really a pitcher that you've got to back. And with the Minnesota Twins, their totals have been a little bit all over the place against the Baltimore Orioles. They've been sort of up and down. This is a game in which they just really dump trucked them. So they've been winning every one of these games. They haven't necessarily been covering the run line in every one against the Orioles. But if you've been betting the Twins on the money line against Baltimore, you've certainly made some money. How about the St. Louis Cardinals? They get a 6-3 win over the Cincinnati Reds. Tyler Mahle just didn't necessarily have his best start, and it was all because of one man. Marcell Ozuna, he winds up having a 3-run homer in the 3rd inning for his 10th of the year. 5 RBI to give him 26. He has really been a godsend for the St. Louis Cardinals, whose offense really seems to be heating up, and they seem to be playing a couple more overs. This game was a push on the total, but they are now 9-4-2 to the over in their last 15 games, so you definitely want to note that. Dakota Hudson continues to be a guy that I really can't trust. I know he got the win in this one, but in 5.2 innings, gives up 3 runs. He winds up getting knocked out after 79 pitches. 5.63 ERA, but the one thing I will say about him, only gave up 1 walk in this game, the Cincinnati Reds. You just have to be continuing to take unders with this team because, once again, this total did not go over for them. All in all, they've just had a tough time with the bats. Their team batting average now above 200, but the lone man that was able to get a extra base hit in this one was Jesse Winkler, who seems to be coming out with a 238 average. But all in all, Cincinnati had some pretty decent pitching and just some really lousy bats. Speaking of bats that are very lousy, how about the Oakland A's? The last time they scored more than 4 runs against a team not named the Texas Rangers or the Baltimore Orioles, you have to go all the way back to April 7th. That is shocking, as the Toronto Blue Jays now 2-0 with Vlad Guerrero Jr., with both those games going under. And it was a 7-1 win for the Toronto Blue Jays. Eric Sogard hitting 400. He has been sensational ever since the Toronto Blue Jays picked him up. And Aaron Sanchez continues to have a walk issue. He gave out 4 free passes, but despite the fact that he has so many walks, he only gives up 1 run in 5 innings, and that run was unearned. His ERA now at 2.32. He has 3 wins on the season. He has been terrific. The Toronto Blue Jays weren't able to play long ball, but like I said, ever since Eric Sogard got into the lineup, this team has really turned things around. As with him in the lineup, the team's record, a pretty amazing 6-3. So you got to give it to the Toronto Blue Jays for having a nice pickup there. The Cleveland Indians wind up playing yet another under themselves. The offense hasn't really gotten going, and the pitching's been pretty good. They wound up getting a quality start out of Shane Bieber, who I just mentioned always makes me nervous whenever I bet on him. 6 innings pitch, winds up giving up 3 runs, and the bullpen was decent for the first 3 innings. You had guys like Tyler Clippard and Daniel Otero come in there and not give up any runs, but the bugaboo for this bullpen was Adam Kimber. He winds up giving up the game-winning home run. As for the Houston Astros, they wind up walking it off in the 10th inning with a Tony Kemp home run, his second. He's only hitting $167 for the year, so that'll get him going. Brad Peacock is a guy that I've been avoiding betting on a little bit for the Astros, but he looked good in this one. He definitely upped his stock. 6 innings pitch, gives up 1 run. It did help that he was going up against the Indians, a team that's hitting below 215 as a unit. In this one, they wound up getting 8 hits. Carlos Gonzalez getting 2 hits, obviously a good sign, and Shea Bieber with a quality start as well with 9 strikeouts, but man, it's just hard to be taking overs with the Cleveland Indians at this point. And Houston, they either score a lot of runs or they score a few runs. It's hard to get a gauge on them. A team that it's very easy to get a gauge on. How about the New York Yankees winning their 10th game out of their last 12? They knock off the San Francisco Giants by a count of 6-4. They get back in the lineup Gary Sanchez. He goes deep for his 7th home run of the year. This is a team that, when fully healthy, is going to be scary. And J.A. Happ, with by far his best start of the year, 7 innings pitched, 95 pitches, does not give up a single run. Now, Luis Cessa in relief was not good. 1.2 innings, gives up 4 runs, all of which were earned to a San Francisco Giants team that is among the bottom 5 in the majors in regards to runs, but I will say that you got to give a tip of that to Eric Kretz. He was able to get his first home run of the year, and then it was nice to see Yangervis Solarte get his first stinger of the year, but all in all, the San Francisco Giants had one guy in the starting lineup that's hitting above 247 for the year, and Derek Holland. He is returning to the Derek Holland that we all know and love. He's 1-4 on the season, 5 innings pitched, gives up 6 runs, all of which were earned. The bullpen goes 4 strong innings, does not give up any runs. The starting pitching, still a little bit of a question mark with this team. Speaking of a bullpen that has questions, how about the Washington Nationals? They wind up playing the San Diego Padres to extra innings and lose by 5 runs. The San Diego Padres hang a 6th spot in the 10th inning thanks to the gas can that is known as the Washington Nationals bullpen. If you see Wander Suero go into the game and you have a ticket on the Washington Nationals, it is essentially toast, as he went 1/3 of an inning, gave up 4 runs, all of which were earned, had 2 walks, his ERA now an 8.18, and the man that replaced him also gave up 2 runs in Justin Miller. He has an ERA of 7.11 because he's always open to giving up runs, and his ERA really is 7.11. Steven Strasburg, a guy that I've been fading quite a bit, he didn't have a bad outing in this one, and he has a 3.82 ERA. He's overall not a bad pitcher. I just feel like he's overvalued. 7 innings pitched, gave up 2 runs, both of which were earned, had 1 walk. It was, of all guys, Luis Perdomo that got the win for the San Diego Padres. I remember how bad he was last year, and there he is coming in relief and being able to get the win, so good for him. Maybe he'll look a little bit better in the bullpen than he was as a starter. And Eric Lauer wound up giving a decent start, 5.2 innings, gives up 2 runs, had 3 walks. He's not a guy that impresses me. He's not really a guy that I fade or anything like that, but a guy that you have to take a look at for the San Diego Padres for his power. Hunter Renfroe, he went deep in the 2nd inning for his 6th dinger of the year. He wound up having 3 RBI in this one. Manuel Margot comes in relief of Famio Reyes, essentially, and had 2 RBI of his own, as the San Diego Padres were just able to hit around in this one. Very impressive showing there. And for the Washington Nationals, if you're looking for a good sign, Howie Kendrick had his 4th home run of the year in the 10th inning, and Juan Soto went deep for his 5th. If you're looking for teams that you can really trust, the Tampa Bay Rays, Operation Fade the Boston Red Sox just continues to come through, and their one trustworthy starter, in my opinion, right now, in David Price, actually pitched well in this one. He did take the loss, but he goes 6 innings, gives up 2 runs. You can't really say much about that. And then the bullpen for the Boston Red Sox, which is in the bottom 10 in the bigs in regards to ERA, actually looked good. 3 innings. They don't give up a single run, but the bats were silent. The lone run for the Boston Red Sox was Mookie Betts getting his 5th home run of the year. This team was not able to drive him around. 11 men left on base, 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position. You've got to give a credit to the Tampa Bay Rays and what the bullpen was able to do. The reliever that you always have caution with the Tampa Bay Rays is Chaz Rowe, but he was able to not give up a run in 2/10 of an inning there. It was just a whole bunch of guys that were coming in. Diego Castillo, Jose Alvarado. It was just everyone coming in and being able to do their role with the Tampa Bay Rays, even though they did issue quite a few pre-passes. And Charlie Morton, after giving up 5 runs to the Boston Red Sox about a week ago, in this one, 6 innings pitch, he did have 4 walks, but did not give up a single run. Got to give him some credit there. And Yandy Diaz got things started off with a bang. He had a leadoff home run to start the game, his 7th of the campaign. Tampa Bay Rays continue to be a team you want to bet on, along with their unders, and the Boston Red Sox got to be looking to fade them. Going into Saturday, the team with the worst offense in the bigs was the Miami Marlins. They wind up getting down 10-1 to the Philadelphia Phillies, and then at one point this game was 10-9 in the bottom of the 8th. This was a wild one as the Phillies pull out a 12-9 win. This was not quite the rock fight that we thought it was going to be, and Trevor Richards, who I thought that he was a little bit of a trustworthy starter, he's lost some points in my book. 4 innings pitched, gives up 5 runs, all of which were earned. But how about the gentleman that followed him up? Jarlin Garcia, 1 inning pitch, gives up 5 runs in 42 pitches that inning. His ERA 11.25. You got to give Wei-Yin Chen some credit. He comes in, 2 innings of relief, does not give up a run. That lowers his ERA to 13.03 as everyone who entered the game for the Miami Marlins, sans Trevor Richards on the mound, had an ERA of at least 7. Not glowing signs for the bullpen. Meanwhile, with Philadelphia Phillies, Jake Arrieta, other than that last inning that he pitched, actually looked pretty good. In that 6th inning, he winds up giving up 4 runs before he departs after 5 innings pitched. Gives up 5 runs. But you cannot really trust his bullpen either. Sir Anthony Dominguez winds up giving up 2 runs. He heightens his ERA to above 5. And then Angel de los Santos exits this game with an ERA of 18 as in one inning pitch. He winds up giving up 2 runs as there was just loads of offense in this game for the Phillies. Andrew McCutchen goes deep for his 5th home run of the year. Nick Williams, fresh off the injured list, his first of the campaign. Rhys Hoskins goes deep for his 8th, and that was really a band-aid because at the time the Phillies were only up by 1 run. They needed that home run. Jose Alfaro leads the Miami Marlins in home runs with his 5th of the campaign. So all in all, it was just an outlier day. I still think you have to take unders with the Miami Marlins. This was just one of those games where you just chalk it up and you say, well, that's not going to happen again for a while. But we do know that the Milwaukee Brewers can put up runs, and they did so against the New York Mets. 8-6 a final in this one. How about Christian Yelich? He goes deep again, his 14th of the year, and he went deep off of Noah Syndergaard, a guy that you just cannot be betting on at this point. He is burning your money. He gives up in 5 innings pitch, 10 hits. That's not scattering 10 hits, ladies and gentlemen. That is clumping them. His record is now a 1-3 with a 6.35 ERA. He gives up 5 runs, all of which were earned in this one. And we know that the bullpen of the New York Mets, not good. Robbie Gazelman gives up only 1 run in 2 innings. That's actually good for him. But then you have Jursic Familia, Spanish for blown save, giving up 2 runs in 1 inning to heighten his ERA to 6.17. Edwin Diaz has an ERA of a .93, is essentially the lone man walking that you can rely upon in the bullpen of the Mets. You have to give Amid Rosario some credit. He wound up hitting a dinger, his 2nd of the year, and Pete Alonso just continues to rake, his 9th dinger of the year. But Ben Gamel for the Milwaukee Brewers also got things going with his first home run of the year. Got a hit in both of his plate appearances. As for the Milwaukee Brewers, Brandon Woodruff gets the win. He looked very solid in the start, by the way. 5 innings pitch, gives up 1 run, lowers his ERA to 5.17, but man, you have some issues in this bullpen as giving up 2 runs in this one was Alex Wilson in 1/10 of an inning. His ERA now a 9.53. Alex Claudio winds up giving up 2 runs in 2/10 of an inning. His ERA of 4.73. Jeremy Jeffries gave up 1 run without recording it out. He's still getting back into things, but Josh Hader, he's not going to be used tomorrow because he wound up getting a 2-inning save here. He's back to being nails, did not give up a single hit, 5 strikeouts. He was able to shut the door and get the Milwaukee Brewers that win. The Kansas City Royals just completely pound the LA Angels. They wind up getting a 9-4 win. The Angels wound up going with an opener, and that's something you got to know whenever you put in a ticket on the Angels. At any time, they could swap out their projected starter and put in an opener. It did no good in this one. Cam Bedrosian pitches the first inning. He doesn't give up a hit or a run. He did issue a walk, but past that, it wasn't bad. But the man that he opened for, Jaime Barria, in 1.2 innings, gives up 7 runs, all of which were earned. What good did the opener do, LA Angels? This is a team that is floundering at 11-17 right now. They were just getting dinged to heck, and they didn't even give up a home run in this game. And coming in relief, I don't think we're going to see him starting much. Chris Stratton, his ERA, a 7.11. He is open to giving up runs at any time. Whenever you see Chris Stratton on the mound, you know that this total is going to be going over. Mike Trout had 2 RBIs for the LA Angels. Meanwhile, for the Kansas City Royals, Hunter Dozier had 2 triples in this game off of Barria and Stratton. And our man, Jorge Lopez, continues to be a guy that you cannot trust. 3.2 innings, gives up 4 runs, all of which were earned. But I will say the Royals bullpen actually looked good. 5.1 innings. They do not give up a single run. That is something that you can't expect in the future. And part of the reason why they didn't give up a run is because Brad Boxberger did not enter this game. How about the Colorado Rockies and how hot they are? This is a team that started out the year 3-12. They have now won 10 out of their last 12. They come back and knock off the Atlanta Braves 9-5, thanks to a 5 spot in the 9th inning. They were down 4-5 going into the 9th inning, and then all of a sudden, runs aplenty. Daniel Murphy hits his first home run of the year. Nolan Arenado his 6th, and then the real big moonshot, Trevor Story hits a 3-run dinger for his 7th of the year. You just can't be trusting the Atlanta Braves bullpen. Mike Foltynewicz in his first start off the injured list, about what I would expect. 6 innings pitched, gave up 4 runs. I thought he would go more like 4 or 5 innings. I thought he was going to give up some runs. AJ Minter, one of the worst closers that you're going to find. He goes 2/10 of an inning, gives up 4 runs, all of which were earned. ERA 9.72. I will say that for the Braves, they continue to drive in runs. So the overs are looking pretty good there. Freddie Freeman goes deep for his fourth dinger of the year. And you also had Ender Inciarte going deep for his second home run of the year. You got to think that that's going to help out his confidence as his bat seems to be coming around. And bats that are coming around, how about the ones of the Chicago Cubs? It helps that they went up against Zach Ungodly Bad, as Zach Ungodly Bad goes 2.2 innings, gives up 5 runs, 7.58 is his ERA. A ERA of a 6.66 would be more appropriate because he is ungodly bad. And then Matt Cook in 4.1 innings of relief. He just seems to be all of a sudden their long relief man. Gives up 4 runs in 4.1 innings. This guy just has absolutely no idea what his role is at this point. Archie Bradley pitches a good inning, which is nice. And David Peralta winds up going deep for his 4th home run of the year. But Yu Darvish actually looked good in this one. He winds up pitching 6 innings, gave up that 1 home run. He did have 4 walks. This is out of the ordinary. I still don't trust him. His ERA down to a 5.02, and then the Cubs bullpen continues to be great. They go 3 innings, do not give up a single run, and Anthony Rizzo got on track in this game. He winds up hitting his 5th home run of the year, had 3 hits here. He ups his average of 220. Got to feel like he's coming around with the bat. Kyle Schwarber had 2 hits. That's probably going to get him going as well. And David Bodie goes deep twice for his 2nd and 3rd home runs of the year. The Pittsburgh Pirates, man, they just continue to drop games left, right, and sideways. This is now their 7th straight loss as they lose this game by a count of 3-1. You had to figure that runs were going to be at a premium in this one as Joe Musgrove and Clayton Kershaw took the mound. Joe Musgrove winds up giving up 3 runs in 6.2 innings. His ERA now 2.06. He's done a solid job for the Pittsburgh Pirates, but the lone run that was driven in by the Pirates was by Adam Frazier. They only mustered 5 hits. Got to continue to take unders with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Meanwhile, Clayton Kershaw continues to look solid for the Dodgers. In his 3rd start of the year, he winds up getting his first win, goes 7 innings, gives up that 1 run, 8 punch-outs, so that was a good sign there, and the Dodgers were able to get 2 innings of relief themselves. Kenley Jansen seems to have settled down as he's been looking a little bit leaky in games, but he had a good 9th here. And then the weird result of the day, the Texas Rangers don't just knock off the Seattle Mariners, they just completely pulverize them 15-1. I'm not saying that the Seattle Mariners have great pitching or anything like that, but Mike Leake was leaking oil. 5 innings pitch, he gives up 10 hits, 9 runs, now 5 of which were earned because there were a couple of errors out there. Tim Beckham commits errors number 9 and 10 on the year. For those of you wondering, yes, he does lead the league in that category. Malik Smith also had an error, so it's not like they were getting great relief around him. And all 4 pitchers that entered the game for the Seattle Mariners wound up giving up a run. And one of those pitchers was position player Dylan Moore, who wound up giving up 4 runs in 1 inning. Poor guy now has a 36 ERA. You really can't blame him for being a gas can pitcher because I'm sure that he was not anticipating going into this game. If you're looking for a good sign, Domingo Santana had his 6th home run of the year for the Seattle Mariners. That was all the way back in the 1st inning. He has 30 RBI now. And from there, Mike Minor, this is a pitcher that you actually can trust for the Texas Rangers. 7 innings pitch, gives up 1 run, 1 walk, 13 strikeouts. And now out of relief, a gentleman that wound up starting some games last year, Ariel Gerardo. He actually pitched 2 scoreless innings, so perhaps that'll give the Rangers a little bit of something. And providing the power of Elvis Andrus, his 4th home run of the year. Rougned Odor, fresh off the injured list, his 1st. And Joey Gallo winds up doing some yard work. He hits his 9th dinger of the year. He is back to hitting dingers or nothing at all. So that's what we like to see out of him as the Texas Rangers in this game. 20 hits. The Seattle Mariners, 3 hits and 3 errors. So obviously some very weird results on this day. Got to continue to take some overs with the Seattle Mariners. The Arizona Diamondbacks continue to play a lot of overs as well. You can't trust the Atlanta Braves bullpen. The Milwaukee Brewers continue to hit around. The Tampa Bay Rays continue to be nails. Continue to fade the Boston Red Sox. The Washington Nationals continue to be overpriced. Yankees keep getting the job done. Got to be taking unders with the Cleveland Indians and the Pittsburgh Pirates along with the Cincinnati Reds as well. And the Orioles are the Orioles that we all expected. So those are my takeaways from Saturday. Now we got to turn the page forward to today, and helping me do so, Christian Pina, terrific handicapper and podcaster. He's going to be joining me next right here on MLB Overtime Betting.
Greg is going to the bullpen as he makes a call to the Azuña hotline.
We are back here on MLB Overtime Betting. Greg Peterson broadcasting from the Azuña Tequila Studios out here in beautiful Las Vegas. Great pleasure to be joined by our next guest. He does terrific work for the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He runs a variety of podcasts, and I know that one of the biggest ones for him is the Inside Vegas podcast. He does a great job there, and he does a little bit of everything. You can tell that he does a lot with the UFC. He's very much into the baseball season as well. He's always posting out their plays, and he did a very good job last year, and it looks like he's off to a good start this year. Christian Pina is my guest. You can follow him on Twitter at Christian Pina. The last name is spelled Pina. And Christian, how are you doing on this fine day?
Good, man. I've been a long-standing fan of yours, so happy we could finally get connected and talk baseball, man. There's something about baseball in Vegas that just really goes hand in hand, right? Like the weather's beautiful. It's on, 10 a.m. out here. Last game at 7, so it's just pure bliss for me, man. I can't wait. I'm so thankful you had me on, and I can't wait to get started with you, man.
Oh, myself as well. I am a gentleman that was born and raised in Wisconsin, and from what I saw on Saturday, the high temperature was 40 degrees. Meanwhile, out here in Vegas, it's like 90 degrees. This is absolutely terrific. And speaking of those Milwaukee Brewers, they're going to be taking on the New York Mets this weekend. They obviously have to see all their aces and everything like that. And the Brewers dealing with a little bit of a mismatch of starting pitchers. They had to send out Corbin Burnes to the minor leagues because, let's face it, he just is not a good starter whatsoever. But what we do know with the Brewers is that they've got some good bats. Guys like Lorenzo Cain, Christian Yelich looks like an MVP candidate once again this year. Eric Thames has been hitting some home runs. What do you make out of this Brewers team in general? Because they were very hot to begin the year. They have cooled off recently. And right now, what I think is a trend for the Brewers is just taking a look at their totals over.
Yeah, look, the Brewers, full disclosure here, the Brewers are a team I cannot seem to figure out. And it's funny when you bet baseball the way I do, which is largely in the first 5 market, trying to eliminate as much variance. Milwaukee, in a lot of ways, last year especially if Hader's available, is a team that I look to go, with the full game on. But when you look at their current, 3-7, their last 10, it's a team that, I think that the knock on them coming in, or at least the question mark, was always going to be what? It was going to be their starting pitching, which is always, the theme of them, it seems, year in, year out, until they, figure out if they can contend and maybe they go buy a piece or two. But to me, look, I completely agree with you. And like I said, this team, they had the, say, fortune, but being able to play the Cardinals, a team that they play very well, and Yelich just absolutely kills again. Now, granted, Goldschmidt does the same against them, but obviously Milwaukee's been able to come out of the better end of that series. And so I think that that's where a little bit of their success, laid. And when you look at the Cardinals pitching that went up against them, they got absolutely destroyed. Flaherty is, splits against people not in Milwaukee versus Milwaukee are absolutely incredible. So I think Milwaukee's been a little bit of a, benefited from great scheduling and just a team that they match up really well against when it comes to pitchers versus hitters. But I'm with you. I can't figure out this Milwaukee pitching staff, but the lineups and the bats are everything you want and then some.
And how about another surprise team? This one is out there in the American League. The Tampa Bay Rays are currently in a series with the Boston Red Sox. Of all the things, the Tampa Bay Rays are currently leading the AL East by a pretty healthy margin. Meanwhile, the Boston Red Sox, well, they've been struggling. Looks like on Sunday we're going to have a chance to fade Chris Sale again, which I will continue to contend has been one of the most profitable things in baseball all year long. What do you make out of this? Just because we've noticed that the prices on Chris Sale have yet to dip. The Tampa Bay Rays going into Friday had won every one of their games on the run line as well. They've won every game by at least 2 runs, which I think is very intriguing. And until further notice, I just have to continue to take these plus prices against Chris Sale.
Yeah, when you look at this, you're speaking my language now talking about a team like the Rays. I am slightly obsessed with this Tampa Bay team and what they are doing. And I wrote up this article talking about kind of the trade that could define this franchise in giving up Chris Archer for a, what was a potential MVP candidate before going down in Austin Meadows, a former number 2 prospect, only because they also got the number 1 prospect in that deal is Tyler Glasnow. Now, I am a firm believer of you should be in the Tyler Glasnow business. I'm currently holding 100-to-1 Cy Young ticket on him right now. That's up on PropSwap if you want to go check that one out and be in the Tyler Glasnow business. But this team is incredible. They treat every game like a playoff game. The analytical approach, they've really taken what Oakland started with Moneyball and they have taken it to a next level for the modern era. And when you really dig into the reasons why this Tampa team is so innovative, their GM took a job right out of college with a sports company that does basically inside sports analytics, and looks at kind of the game within the game, the numbers behind it. And he was able to really, use what he learned there, work his way up through their system, and then apply what he learned at basically his first job. It's one of the most incredible stories out there. Day in, day out with this Tampa team, you're getting a team that is treating your money when you're betting on them like it's a Game 7 of the World Series, and you really cannot ask for a better wager from a philosophical standpoint. I know Meadows is out right now till May with the finger, but even without him, and I know they've cooled down a little bit, this team is doing everything you want a team that you're going to put your money behind right now.
Absolutely. As we've got Christian Pina joining me right here on MLB Overtime Betting, the Rays have been very profitable, to your point, and a team that's been heating up a little bit recently have been the Toronto Blue Jays. They were able to get a nice sweep about a week and a half ago against the Oakland A's on the road. Now they're hosting the Oakland A's on Sunday. As we all know, Vlad Guerrero Jr. gets the call up to the majors. Now, a very unfortunate note for the Toronto Blue Jays is that they're without Matt Shoemaker for the rest of the year. He's a guy that I really liked as a starting pitcher. He just has always seemed to go down with injuries, which I think is so unfortunate. How do you evaluate this Toronto Blue Jays team moving forward? Because obviously Vlad Guerrero Jr. is going to help it out an offense that's been very inconsistent, but I actually really like what I've seen out of the pitching of the Blue Jays so far this year.
Yeah, when you look down the line at what they've been able to accomplish, and, for any sabermetrics guys out there, anything that takes kind of quote unquote luck into it for a pitcher, I mean, you're looking at guys that were, very much destined, in my opinion, for positive regression, specifically Marcus Stroman, Aaron Sanchez, and on down through the line. I know that they maybe found, a diamond in the rough with Shoemaker, which is another guy that I was rooting for, was absolutely dynamite on some nice plus money lines, especially in the first 5 market. This Toronto team is, scrappy. They're gritty. It's going to be interesting to see what Vlad ultimately does to their prices, which is going to be, kind of an interesting thing to monitor. And remember, I mean, this team was basically an automatic first 5 under team for much of the season. You go down and you look at their game logs specifically in the first 5, and it is, not much offense, great pitching, and they've kind of borrowed from the Pirates model there a little bit. I mean, their offense is obviously a lot better than the Pirates in my estimation, but it's going to be, kind of interesting to see if maybe they shift from a dead under team to maybe a team you have to start to get behind a little bit with Vlad coming in. I mean, you look at his price just from an AL Rookie of the Year standpoint. I mean, when he was down there, I believe the Westgate was hanging plus 150 at the point, and then as soon as they found out he was getting the call, they hung that minus 150 right back up there. So you're seeing the change in the market already just from him being called up.
And right now, what I'm noticing for the Sunday slate is that there's a bunch of pitchers I really like that are going on the mound that I feel like are undervalued. Wade Miley of the Houston Astros treated me very well when he was on the Brewers last year. He's been pretty good with the Astros here this year. Trevor Williams had the best ERA in baseball after the All-Star break last year. It looks like he's going to be going up against Rich Hill, who's going to be making his first start of the year on Sunday against the Dodgers. And then Jose Quintana recently has been terrific. Looks like he's going to be going on Sunday against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Who are a couple guys that you like to trust that you might be looking to bet on just moving forward? They can be pitching on Sunday. They can be pitching elsewhere. But these 3 guys right here are 3 that I feel like are very undervalued, and I feel like you can get good prices and feel good about placing a bet on them.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. I mean, Trevor Williams, when you look at last year, what he was able to do, 20-10 to the first 5 under, had a streak of 17 straight scoreless innings without allowing an earned run. He's, in my estimation, I mean, again, I know Musgrove's even on the same staff as him, but he is probably the most underrated pitcher in baseball. I'm going to give you another one that's out there. Jack Flaherty. Look, I tweeted this out. Jack Flaherty to me is a guy I got in the Cy Young business as well was able to grab a 60-1, crashed all the way down to about 8-1 before. What I didn't account for was him going up against Milwaukee. And I mean, when you look at what happened to him in those 3 starts, he had them basically back to back to back, which he got shelled in each one of them. I mean, when you look at this, Jack Flaherty's 2019 versus Milwaukee, 6.3 innings pitched, 9 earned runs, 8 Ks, 8.31 ERA against anyone else. 2 games, 11.1, 1 earned run, 14 K, 0.75 ERA. And against a team like Cincinnati, we know is offensively inept. I think that Jack Flaherty is in a great bounce back spot where you're probably going to get buying at the low point of his market, which I think is always something that you want to do, especially if you are going to be in the first 5 market. One other guy that is pitching this weekend that I wanted to talk about real quick, Shane Bieber. Shane Bieber is somebody who just got shelled shelled. And the knock on Bieber has always been that he is in the zone too much. That's why a lot of the analytical guys loved him. They compared him to this year's kind of version of Walker Buehler. And so it's a tightrope act with him when you watch him and you bet on him in really any single market for sure, because the outs that he gets are very loud. They make you hold your breath. They're usually a line out, sharp hit, line drive. So it's a little bit of a tightrope. You're kind of a little bit better when you bet him and don't even watch it to kind of spare yourself the heart attack of this. Bieber on the road is a very good bet. It is absolutely incredible what he's been able, his splits when you look at, it's, very different. Usually pitchers pitch well at home, but they struggle on the road, right? Jose Berrios was always a good version of this, although I think that he's going to be able to turn that around a little bit. But Bieber, somebody for whatever reason, just gets it figured out on the road.
I completely agree with you. I have Bieber fever myself, as we've got Christian Pina joining me right here on the podcast. And something else that I've been backing, and it wasn't profitable about a week and a half ago, but it looks like we're back on the train, is Homer Bailey Day. Homer Bailey pitching on Sunday against the LA Angels. Matt Harvey on the other side for the Angels. I feel like this game just has overridden all over it. Homer Bailey, the teams that he's been pitching for, I believe, are 3-22 in their last 25 games. Meanwhile, Matt Harvey goes into this game with an 8.03 ERA, having given up 5 home runs in 24 2/3 innings. And I will say, with the LA Angels, it feels like the guys around Mike Trout seem to be finally picking it up with the bats. And Dalton Simmons was as cold as an igloo to begin the year. They're getting something out of Brandon Goodwin. This is a game in which I just feel like is a game that you have to take over or pass. I just can't see any other way to play this game.
Yeah, and just to speak to Bieber one last time, at home, 9-0, 3.00 ERA, 9.6 K through 9 on the road, 4-5, 5.56, which is just truly incredible when you look at that. But yeah, Homer Bailey Day is something I have been very fond with in the first 5 market last year, 2-16. Showed a little bit of life, I guess, at random times during this season, but it was against, some very bad lineups, and not that that's ever stopped Homer Bailey from doing what he does with his 11 win percentage in the first 5 market last year. But I completely agree with you. I do worry about this Royals lineup. I think that if there was a start that, Harvey was going to look like he maybe had a glimpse of getting it back together, it would be this one. I can never fault anyone for going over on a Bailey, maybe, either team total, first 5, whatever the case may be. You want to get as many shares of shorting that guy's stock as possible. So the over makes a ton of sense, and any which way you slice it, you got to get a piece of fading him as long as he's in the rotation.
Oh, absolutely. And Christian, is there anything else that's really standing out to you just in general baseball betting so far this year that has been profitable? For me personally, it's been really fading these aces like your Jacob deGroms, your Max Scherzers, Chris Sales, guys like that, just taking these ridiculous plus prices. And you know that even if they hit only at a 50% clip, you're going to make a whole lot of money in the long run.
Yeah, it's funny. Looking at this season as a whole, I think the first week was, we saw Baltimore as a huge dog. It was really, ruled by these underdogs, but at the same time, you kind of heard professionals were struggling. So it was a little bit of a weird split in that sense. But when you look at this, my whole thing, I completely agree with you. Take the value and fade these guys. You'll, reduce that break-even point, hit 40% and make some serious money at those plus money odds. I always, largely tend to avoid those current elite aces either way. And I look to see who the market isn't valuing. I'm probably the biggest fan in the world of these pitchers that pitch in the 2, 3, 4, and even 5 slots because the market doesn't catch up to them. Guys like Frankie Montas, Luis Castillo, I know pitches out of that quote unquote ace spot, but guys that the market really truly doesn't catch up to, and we'll see how long it really takes them. Kyle Freeland was one last year who's now bumped up to the ace slot, Aaron Nola. So when you can identify those type of guys a year early, Glasnow makes some sense as well in that specific conversation. That's really where I found the most success. And again, eliminating variance by playing mainly first 5 with those guys. But the niche markets are always something I've really found success with. When you talk about, Tampa Bay and what they're doing in the first inning with openers, playing that trend. Look, the market is not catching up to that. Will there not be a score in the first inning is usually -110 now. I know that Tampa went on this first inning heater, but it's kind of largely, it's dissipated now that Meadows is gone. So finding those little inefficiencies in the market is really key. And the other thing is I think that strikeout props are really underrated when you break down handicapping. Again, we were talking about David Price and Chris Sale earlier. Nobody strikes out more against lefties than the Tampa Bay Rays. You're going to get them back to back to potentially have a nice little over there as well. And conversely, nobody strikes out less against righties than the Houston Astros. So you were able to kind of short Trevor Bauer stock with a 6.5. You took that opportunity to see that. And then playing everything long term. term. So really, in my opinion, with this young season, it's about looking, where everyone else is and take those niche markets. While everyone's worrying about, a full game sweater, whatever, try to look where everyone else is.
And Christian, I would like to close it up with this. I know that you're doing tremendous work. You do a lot of writing. You do a bunch of podcasts, everything like that. Let the good people at home know where they can find your work, find your podcast, and just get a little bit more of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything is on Twitter at Christian Pina, which is basically the hub for every link that you want. Whatever you want, I got something for you out there. And all of my written work can be found on sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Twice a week, weekly articles recapping what the week that was in baseball and the weekend ahead, and then the big ticket items as well. And then the podcast is Inside Vegas on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network and the Sports Gambling Podcast main feed as well. Really on there more for football season, but Inside Vegas on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network if you want to listen.
Terrific. A big thanks to Christian Pina for joining me right here on MLB Overtime Betting. And coming up next, we've got a loaded slate of baseball today, so I'm going to give you a side and total on every game as we touch them all.
Hey, I'm Steve Heitner, the guy who uttered the famous phrase, "That's gold." And that's the inspiration of my new podcast, That's Gold with Steve Heitner. We talk sports, sports betting, movies, comedy, food, drink, Vegas, music, movies, and more. 5 days a week. Did I say movies twice? Look, guys love it, whether they're hip or worried about breaking a hip. Find us on Apple and Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify and Stitcher. That's Gold with me, Steve Heitner.
Welcome back to MLB Overtime. Greg is throwing a gem, so yeah, he better not blow it.
And a big thanks to Christian Pina for joining me right here on MLB Overtime Betting. It is Greg Peterson broadcasting from the Azuña Tequila Studios out here in gorgeous Las Vegas. Does tremendous work with his podcast, does a tremendous job of handicapping. And now it is that time that I give you a side and total on every game on Sunday's MLB betting board as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Note that some of these plays are locked in. Some of these plays, I am still in wait-and-see mode. I will be updating you guys as we go along as to that, and anything that is not locked in or has changed going to be noted on my Twitter page at gunit_81. And as always, we are going to go in Las Vegas rotation order, starting with 9:51, 9:52 on the betting rotation. The Miami Marlins head to Philadelphia to face off against the Phillies. It is Pablo Lopez going for the Miami Marlins. For the Phillies, Zach Eflin. If you like the fish, you're going to be getting anywhere between plus 147 and plus 155. Meanwhile, if you want to lay it here with the Phillies, going to be laying anywhere between minus 162 and minus 170. Total in this game is 8, and it's shaded a little bit to the over. Over is between minus 110 and minus 115. Under anywhere between minus 105 and minus 110. There's also an 8.5 out there. That under is minus 120. The over is even juice. We saw the Phillies really bust out in a big way against the Miami Marlins with a double-digit amount of runs. And Zach Eflin is a pitcher that I really like to trust. I know that Pablo Lopez was able to do a nice job, and he was able to get a win against Max Scherzer about a week or so ago, but this is not a guy that I'm really looking to trust. I am looking at the Phillies here, but I don't really want to lay this kind of juice because I think that they're going to be able to win this game by multiple runs, and I am taking a look at the Philadelphia Phillies run line. The run line that I am seeing right now is plus 120, and I've already locked that sucker in. I do think that the Phillies have really gotten their bats back online, and it's really interesting because Cesar Hernandez going into their game on Saturday was actually the team's best hitter in regards to average at 276. Miguel Franco has actually been one of their best hitters too. Going into Saturday, he had 7 home runs, 20 RBI, was hitting 261, and then you just have a hodgepodge of guys that were hitting right around 250 because Gene Segura and Sean Kingery currently on the injured list. Both of those guys hitting right around 300, and in the case of Kingery, hitting more in the neighborhood of 400. But with the Philadelphia Phillies, you've got so many guys like Andrew McCutchen, Bryce Harper, Reese Hoskins and company that are doing a good job. JT Realmuto has gotten his average back above 275. Having Nick Williams in the lineup helps, and Gene Segura, who I just mentioned was on the injured list for so long, he came back on Saturday as well, so obviously a big boost there. Meanwhile, for the Miami Marlins, got a couple guys that are starting to come around with the bat. Miguel Rojas and Sterling Castro hitting right in the neighborhood of 260, 270-ish. Jose Alfaro hitting just below 300 himself. He's been able to provide some power. Curtis Granderson seems to finally be getting out of his slump. He wound up getting a hit in his first 3 at-bats yesterday. That's obviously good to see. And then there's a little bit of an intriguing third baseman for this team that was able to pound out a couple hits yesterday, and John Birdie. He had not had a hit all year long before yesterday, and he was able to get a multi-hit game, so that was good as Miami Marlins and Philadelphia Phillies, 2 teams that were really sleepy with the bats going into yesterday, really busted out. But I don't know whether or not it's going to translate to today. As you take a look at Zach Eflin, he was a very good bet on pitcher last year. I know he's only 2-3 this year, along with Pablo Lopez, who was 2-3, but both these guys have ERAs right around 4. Eflin 4.15, Pablo Lopez 4.44, and when you take a look at it, both these guys have pitched right around 26 innings. Lopez has 29 strikeouts, Eflin 23. Both these guys have 5 walks. The difference is Zach Eflin has given up 6 singers so far this year to Pablo Lopez's 2. But the thing with the Miami Marlins that we know is that nobody's really hitting home runs for this team. Nobody on the Miami Marlins enters into this game with more than 4 home runs, and Neil Walker is currently day-to-day as well, which that obviously hurts things. And all in all, I do think that the Phillies are going to be able to win this game at a little bit of a lower scoring battle. I've already locked in that Phillies run line price, and I am taking a look at this total under, trying to see if I'm going to be able to get a little bit more even juice, see if the public wants a bite on the over because of how high scoring the Saturday game was. So for that reason, I am going to be playing this total under, and I've already locked in the run line. Game 953, 954 on the betting rotation. The Milwaukee Brewers go on the road to face off against the New York Metropolitans. Fresh off his stint with the New York Yankees that resulted in no starts, Gio Gonzalez on the mound for the Milwaukee Brewers. Meanwhile, Steven Matz goes for the Mets. The total on this game is 8, and it is shaded over. Over is minus 120, the under is even. If you like the Brewers, you're getting plus 110. If you like the Mets, you're getting minus 120. This is a spot in which some of these books currently have it off the board. It's readily available offshore. Right now, the only book in the States that has it up is William Hill. But with that said, I am taking a look at this total over, and I am all about the New York Mets. I wound up locking in the Mets offshore. This is just a spot where I think the Brewers are going to get pulverized. Gio Gonzalez is a pitcher that you really cannot trust. We all remember his time with the Nationals last year. He just was not very good. And Steven Matz, aside from that one just completely atrocious start where he gives up 8 runs without recording a single out against the Philadelphia Phillies, was actually pretty darn good. You take a look at his time with the Washington Nationals last year, Gio Gonzalez, in 145 2/3 innings, wound up giving out 70 walks. He had 126 strikeouts in that time period. Opponents hit 272 against him. Now, he did look better in his time with the Milwaukee Brewers in 5 starts, wound up going 3-0 in that stint, but still, 10 walks in 25 1/3 innings. Opponents weren't really hitting him hard, but I think that was just because of a little bit of confusion. But Gio Gonzalez has really lost a little bit from a few years ago, and I think that runs are going to be aplenty here. With the New York Mets, you've got Pete Alonso, a guy that going into Saturday was hitting .292 with 8 home runs, 21 RBI. Jeff McNeil still hitting above .350. Robinson Cano has really picked it up. Amid Rosario is hitting much better than he did in past years as well. You've got Wilson Ramos, who's providing something at the catcher spot as well. And we know something about the Mets. It is that the bullpen is just absolutely atrocious. The Milwaukee Brewers bullpen is getting better, but with that said, they've been quite badly taxed because they've been having to do so much mixing and matching with the lineup. Obviously, Ben Gamble getting a home run for the Brewers on Saturday was a nice sign, and they seem to be getting better hitting out of guys like Mike Moustakas and Lorenzo Cain, but the guy that you always have to focus on is Christian Yelich. Christian Yelich, just a man possessed, going into Saturday, hitting .333, 13 home runs, 32 RBI. Yasmani Grandal hitting right around 300 as well. But they do have some struggling bats as well. Travis Shaw, Jesus Aguilar, both guys are not getting the job done. I do like the way that Eric Thames is hitting. He's been able to provide quite a bit of power with 5 home runs, but Orlando Arcia at the bottom of the lineup, not doing much either. And for that reason, I do think that the Mets have a better lineup, and I think that the Mets are going to be able to get into the Brewers bullpen because even when Gio was starting with the Brewers last year, he just wasn't going deep in games. So for that reason, I have already locked in the New York Mets as a play. Currently wait see mode on the over. Trying to see if I can get an unjuiced 8.5 or see if the juice dies down on this 8. 9:55, 9:56 on the betting rotation. It is the Colorado Rockies on the road facing off against the Atlanta Braves. Kevin Gausman on the bump for the Braves. Tyler Anderson goes for the Colorado Rockies. Total in this game is 9, and it is shaded over. Across the board, the over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. If you like the Atlanta Braves, you are going to be laying anywhere between minus 150 and minus 158. If you want to take a shot here on the Rockies, you're going to be getting anywhere between a plus 140 and plus 148 price. With Tyler Anderson, this is a guy that you just cannot trust. He has been arguably the worst starting pitcher when you take a look at sabermetrics in the MLB so far this year. In his 3 starts, he has went a grand total of 12 innings, giving up 22 hits, 6 walks, and 3 home runs. That is an ERA of 12 and a whip of 2.33. Meanwhile, Kevin Gausman, I know that he hasn't necessarily gotten off to the best of starts after coming off the injured list, and he got banged up when he took on the Reds a couple days ago. He wound up giving up 6 runs, 5 of which were earned across 5 innings, but he still is a solid pitcher. ERA 3.96, a whip of 1, and in 25 innings, he has 28 punch-outs. The 4 home runs that he's given up, a little bit of a concern, which is why I am looking at this total over. I do think that runs are going to be aplenty, as the Colorado Rockies have really kicked up their offense. They were really struggling on offense to begin the year, but they have really turned things around. Trevor Story has been a big reason why. He is hitting just below 300, and David Dahl is hitting above 300. Daniel Murphy is now back in the lineup as well. He and Arenado hitting right around 300. That is going to help, and Daniel Murphy was able to hit his first home run of the year yesterday, and Nolan Arenado went deep for his 6th dinger. Ryan McMahon is still continuing to need to pick it up with the bat. He just hasn't really been himself ever since coming off the injured list, but Remiel Tapia has been able to provide something out there in left field. All in all, the Rockies are hitting quite well, and so are the Atlanta Braves. You've got Ozzie Albies at the top of the lineup hitting just below 300, Freddie Freeman and Ronald Acuna Jr. both hitting above 300, Nick Markakis hitting closer to 330. Dansby Swanson has been driving in all sorts of runs. Going into Saturday, he had 21 RBI and 5 home runs. Ronald Acuna Jr. providing some power as well. He had 6 home runs entering their game against the Rockies yesterday as well. So all in all, I do think that you're going to get a lot of runs in this game. The Rockies bullpen, obviously better than that of the Atlanta Braves, but I think that the Braves are going to get a much better start out of Gausman, so they're not going to have to look to it too much. Meanwhile, the Rockies, I just think that Tyler Anderson is just going to completely implode once again. He has just been a gas can pitcher all year long, and for that reason, I'm not just looking at the Braves on the money line. I'm looking at the Braves on the run line, seeing anywhere between plus 130 and plus 135 on that run line. I've already locked in the run line of plus 135. Currently, Wayne Seamode on the over 9 currently at minus 115, trying to see if I can get minus 110 juice, but if I can only get minus 115, I'm certainly going to take it. I think that runs are going to be aplenty in this game. 957, 958 on the betting rotation. You've got the San Diego Padres going to Washington to face off against the Nationals. Jeremy Ellickson on the pump for the Nationals. Joey Lucchesi goes for the San Diego Padres. Total in this game is 8.5, and it is shaded over. Over anywhere between minus 115 and minus 120. If you like the under, that is anywhere between even juice and minus 105. If you want to take a shot here on the San Diego Padres, this number is fluctuating a little bit. They are anywhere between a plus 108 underdog to laying minus 103. Meanwhile, if you want to lay it with the Nationals, you're going to be laying anywhere between minus 110 and minus 118. This is a spot where I do have to take a look at the San Diego Padres. They've won each of the last 2 days as a significant underdog. Obviously, they're not that in this spot, and that's just because Jeremy Hellickson does not go very long in games. So far this year, he's been a decent starter, but he's just a guy that's not able to provide any length. He's only went 18 2/3 innings over the course of 4 starts. His ERA is a 4.34, whip of a 1.61, and that's because he's issued 10 walks in 18 2/3 innings. Joey Lucchesi sometimes lends himself to a little bit of hard contact throughout his career, but so far this year in 27 innings has only given up 2 home runs, 9 walks over that time span, not necessarily too bad, and 29 punch-outs is great. Jeremy Ellickson, only 10 strikeouts so far this year. That's something that you've got to note. And San Diego seems to be really heating up with the bats. Hunter Renfroe was able to hit that essentially go-ahead/winning home run on Friday against Washington Nationals. He has 6 dingers, is hitting .239 for this team so far this year. Manny Machado was able to have a couple hits in their extra inning game against the Washington Nationals as the San Diego Padres just completely erupted for 6 runs in that final inning, with Hunter Renfroe getting 3 hits in that game. It did help that they were able to draw quite a few walks during that final inning as well. You do have some guys that are struggling at the plate. Famio Reyes hitting below 200. He's been a victim of bad luck. Eric Hosmer hitting 224. Ian Kinsler still hitting below a $150. So all those guys are struggling. And then the catcher spot in general with Mejia and Austin Hedges both just not getting the job done. Meanwhile, with the Nationals, they've got some guys that are doing a decent job of hitting, but it was good to see Howie Kendrick be able to get a home run for this team along with Juan Soto. That was his 4th of the campaign, and Soto has 5, but Juan Soto only hitting 250. Adam Eaton is doing a good job at the top of the lineup of getting on. He's hitting nearly 300, but Ryan Zimmerman continues to struggle. He's hitting only 213. Howie Kendrick is hitting 325. He's really leading the way. And then you've got guys like Brian Dozier that are not living up to their billing as well. He's only hitting above 73. I have much more faith in the San Diego Padres. They've got a lights-out bullpen as well. And with the Nationals, you can tell that they're still missing Trey Turner as well. So just things are not going quite right for this team. Also going to be very interesting to see what happens with Anthony Rendon moving forward. He is currently hitting 356, 6 home runs, 18 RBI. He did not play for the team yesterday. He was on the injured list for the longest time, so he's sort of been in and out of the lineup. I think that he's going to play in this game, but even if he does, this is still a total that I'm going to look under with, and I've already locked it in just because the Padres do have such good pitching. And I took the plus price here with the San Diego Padres. I think that they're going to be able to get the sweep in this series. The Nationals are a team that have been fading. They've been badly overvalued all year long, and I do like Joey Lucchesi as a starter, and Jeremy Hellickson not going to be able to go very far, and the Washington Nationals, as we know, has the worst bullpen ERA out there in the big leagues. 9.59, 9.60 on the betting rotation. The Cincinnati Reds are in St. Louis to face off against the Cardinals. Jack Flaherty goes for the Cardinals. Sonny Gray on the bump for the Cincinnati Reds. Total in this game is 8, and it is shaded both ways. Over anywhere between minus 105 and minus 115. Same goes for the under. If you want to take a shot here on the Reds, you're going to be getting a wildly inconsistent price, anywhere between plus 123 and plus 135. While laid here with the St. Louis Cardinals, you're going to be laying anywhere between minus 145 and minus 136. I do really heed the words of Christian Pina, who was talking about Jack Flaherty a little bit earlier. He obviously has his woes against the Milwaukee Brewers, but all in all, this is a pitcher that was very good last year, and he's a guy that I'm looking to trust. And even though he did have those blow-up starts against the Brewers, he still is 2-1 so far this year. He's obviously given up the 7 long balls, but he does have 32 punch-outs in 24 innings. And Sonny Gray has been a little bit of a tough luck loser. He's 0-3, 24 and 2/3 innings over the course of his 4 starts. He's only allowed 1 home run and issued 6 walks, 31 strikeouts. He does look significantly better for this team, but I do think that we are going to get some runs in this game. I do think that Sonny Gray is going to come back to earth, and Marcell Ozuna has been absolutely magnificent for the Cincinnati Reds. Yesterday, he was able to hit a big home run for this team. That was his 10th of the year. He now also has 26 RBI. He has been shouldering the load. Paul Goldschmidt has been picking it up with the bat as well. He has 9 home runs and is now hitting 284. Paul DeJong hitting 346 going into this game. Jose Martinez hitting just below 330 himself. You've even got Tyler O'Neill coming in pinch hitting spots, and he's hitting 300. Yadier Molina's picked it up. Dexter Feller hitting above 300. Colton Wong is reliable at the bottom of the lineup. And I do know that the Reds have a pretty good bullpen, but I just feel like this is a spot where the Cardinals should be able to win big, because with the Cincinnati Reds, as a team, they are hitting just 208. They've been able to hit some long balls. You take a look at Yasiel Puig. He now has 15 RBI, hitting 205 with 4 home runs. Jesse Winkler has 7 dingers on the year, and Dan Diedrich has went deep 5 times himself, but you just don't have a lot of guys hitting for average. Take a look up and down at the lineup that was trotted out there yesterday. They did not have a single guy in their lineup that was hitting above 241. That belonged to Eugenio Suarez. Votto still gets on base, but he's hitting 232. Jesse Winkler has picked it up to get his average to 238, but you've got Scheibler, who's hitting a $132. Tucker Barnhart has his average down to 207, and Diedrich, who I mentioned before, hitting just 216. I think that this is a spot where the Cardinals should be able to win this game by multiple runs. I'm currently seeing a money line price out there of minus 136. I'm currently in wait-and-see mode because I'm pondering whether to take the Cardinals on the money line or the run line. If the juice is just too great, I'm going to take the run line. If it shrinks down to the Cardinals being more around minus 130, I'll probably look at the money line. And currently in wait-and-see mode on the over as well. Cardinals and over is what I'm going to be playing. Just right now, seeing what numbers I'm going to be able to get there. 961, 962 on the betting rotation. It is the Chicago Cubs still in the desert to face off against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Luke Weaver toes the rubber for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Jose Quintana for the Chicago Cubs. So in this game is 9.5. And it is shaded under. The under is anywhere between minus 115 and minus 120. The over is anywhere between even juice and minus 105. I am seeing one straight 9 out there. That over is minus 120. The under is even. And looking up and down the board, it is anywhere between the Diamondbacks minus 104 and minus 105. The Cubs anywhere between minus 106 and minus 105. This is essentially an even split across the board. You're going to be paying the same on either team. And I don't get why. Luke Weaver has looked pretty good in his last couple starts, but Jose Quintana is a guy that I am going to be backing, and I'm going to be backing a lot this year. He is currently 3-1, 3.21 ERA. In 4 starts so far this year, he has went 28 innings. He has 36 punch-outs. He's allowed 3 home runs. He has been sensational in that regard. And Luke Weaver doing a good job himself. 2-1, 3.33 ERA. Got off to a little bit of a rough start, but 31 punch-outs in 27 innings of his own. Only 6 walks as well. Quintana has 9, which that's a little bit of a woe, if you're even going to call it that, because that's still pretty decent compared to most other starting pitchers, and Luke Weaver has only allowed 2 long balls. But what I will say is that both these teams have been doing a pretty good job of hitting. We saw the Cubs be able to explode yesterday, but then again, that was against good old Zach Godley, and we know how that goes. Javi Baez, going into Saturday's game, had been absolutely terrific, hitting .327, 9 home runs, 22 RBI, and then it's some of the guys that you really wouldn't expect to have really stepped up in regards to average. Jason Hayward has really been finding it with the bat so far this year. He's hitting above .320. He's been terrific. You do have a couple guys that are slumping for the Cubs, but Anthony Rizzo seems to be rounding into form. He has finally broken the Mendoza line. Ben Zobrist has been not so effective at the top of the lineup, and Kyle Schwarber barely above the Mendoza line himself. But Chris Bryant seems to be rounding into form. Javi Baez has been terrific, and David Bodie has been able to deliver an average near 300 along with Daniel Descalso. Meanwhile, for the Arizona Diamondbacks, you've got a whole bunch of guys that are hitting above 300. David Peralta, Gerard Dyson, Adam Jones, Christian Walker, all hitting above 310. Nick Ahmad and John Ryan Murphy, both hitting right around 265, 270-ish. You gotta like what they're providing. Ketel Marte is actually essentially the weak link in regards to average, but going into Saturday, he had 6 home runs, 21 RBI. Christian Walker had 7 dingers himself going into that game, but I do like the way that Quintana is pitching right now, and I do like the bullpen, and I do think that Luke Weaver is going to be able to have a quality start as well, but I think that the difference maker in this one is just the fact that I have a little bit more trust in Quintana, so for that reason, I am all about the Cubs in this spot. I've already locked in the Chicago Cubs as a play because I do feel like the public going to be on Chicago in this spot, but I am currently in wait-and-see mode on the under, trying to see if under 9.5 gets to minus 110 juice. If not, I'm going to try to see if under 9 is maybe more in that neighborhood of plus 105, try to get a little bit of a plus price there. So, going to be on the under in some form, but have already locked in the Chicago Cubs as a play there. 963, 964 on the betting rotation. The Pittsburgh Pirates, yarg, are in Los Angeles to face off against the Dodgers. Rich Hill goes on the mound for his first start of the year. Meanwhile, he will be opposed by Trevor Williams. The total on this game is 8, and it is shaded slightly to the under. Under is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 120. The over is anywhere between even juice and minus 110. If you like the Buccos, you're going to be getting a pretty significant plus price, anywhere between plus 160 and plus 165. Want to lay it here with the Dodgers. Going to be laying anywhere between minus 178 and minus 180. I went through it in the last segment. It's just really hard to trust Rich Hill in his first start of the year. Meanwhile, Trevor Williams, myself and Christian Pina, both very big fans of him. He had the lowest ERA in the big leagues after the All-Star break last year, and he's been good this year. Only 1-1, but throughout his starts, he's went 31 and 1/3 innings. He's only allowed 24 hits and 6 walks. That is a whip of a .96. He's allowed 2 dingers in 31 and 1/3 innings as well. And with the way that Dodger Stadium plays, he's not going to have too much of a threat of giving up those long balls. We all know that the Dodgers have a very good lineup, but they've actually been struggling with regards to average. And then when you take a look on the other side for Rich Hill, I just think that at some point age is going to be catching up to him. He obviously was terrific last year, but he is going into his age 39 season. Last year, you take a look at him, he had 24 starts. He wound up going 132 and 2/3 innings with an 11-5 record. He does lend himself to a little bit of contact. I just don't think there's any way that he gets 150 strikeouts and 132 and 2/3 innings again this year. And I did mention that Dodgers lineup that had been struggling a little bit. It's essentially spearheaded by Cody Bellinger. Going into Saturday, hitting .433, 13 home runs, 33 RBI. I will say that Alex Verdugo has been a nice find for this team. He is hitting well above 300. He's been able to supply a couple home runs and RBI as well. You just take a look at some of these other guys. Max Muncy barely hitting above the Mendoza line. Whenever David Freese is in there at first base, he is hitting below 200. Chris Taylor hitting $175. It doesn't matter whether it's Austin Barnes or Gale behind the dish. Both these guys are hitting below 220. Jock Peterson and Kike Hernandez out there in the outfield, not necessarily hitting for a great average. Justin Turner has been picking it up a little bit along with Corey Seager, but all in all, this is a Dodgers team that after starting out the year so smoldering hot, they have cooled down. And with the Pittsburgh Pirates, they're all sorts of banged up. Corey Dickerson and Lonnie Chinson, all outfielders that are on the 10-day injured list. Eric Gonzalez is going to be out for a very long time, along with Kevin Newman. So obviously you have to take a look at that. Now Chris Archer's on the 10-day injured list. That's not going to apply to this start because you got to think that Trevor Williams is going to be able to deliver 7 strong innings for the Pirates once again. But doing the raking for this team is Melky Cabrera. He entered into Saturday's game hitting above 300. Josh Bell, 6 home runs, 18 RBI, average just above 280. I do like what I've seen out of Cody Tucker. He had that essentially winning home run against the San Francisco Giants last Saturday, so he's been doing a good job. Adam Frazier has slowed down with his average at the top of the lineup. Jung Ho Kang and Francisco Cervelli both hitting below the Mendoza line, and then they've had to be playing in the outfield. Pablo Reyes, he is hitting well below the Mendoza line himself. That's obviously been a little bit of an issue, but I will say that Brian Reynolds has been a nice find. He is hitting above 375 for this team as well. I do think that the Pirates, because of the starting pitching, are going to be able to get this win, though. I do think that it is going to be a little bit of a lower scoring game. I think that Rich Hill at some point comes back down to earth, but I do think that this is a total that's going to go under. I'm right now in wait and see mode because I do think that there is going to be a little bit of steam on the over with it being Rich Hill's first start, and I just don't understand why, but Trevor Williams gets absolutely no love, so I'm in wait and see mode on the Pirates price as well. But in this one, going to be playing the Pirates. I'm going to be playing this total under 965, 966 on the betting rotation. The Tampa Bay Rays are in Boston to face off against the Red Sox. Chris Sale, and you should be selling his stock right now and taking the other side, goes on the mound for the Boston Red Sox. I think you know what way I'm going to be going on this game. Meanwhile, for the Tampa Bay Rays, Tyler Glasnow on the bump. For some reason, unbeknownst to me, the Red Sox, anywhere between a minus 151 and minus 140 and minus 158 favorite. Meanwhile, the Rays, you're able to get anywhere between plus 137 and plus 148. Total in this game's 8, and it is shaded over. Over's anywhere between minus 115 and minus 120. The under is anywhere between minus 105 and even juice. And this is a spot where we are taking the Tampa Bay Rays. I am all aboard Operation Chris Sale. If you've bet against Chris Sale in all 5 of his starts so far this year, I think you're up somewhere in the neighborhood of 9 or 10 units. And you'd think that I'm joking, and I'm not. He has been a hefty favorite in every one of his starts this year, and now he's a favorite in this game as well. Aside from his one outing against the Oakland A's, and I guess you could say his start against the Tigers a few days ago as well, he has not looked like himself. And even in that start against the Tigers, he just jacked up his pitch count and he only went 5 innings, turning it over to a Boston Red Sox bullpen that ranks 24th in regards to ERA this year. Meanwhile, Tyler Glasnow, in 5 starts this year, has been nails. If you put $100 on him on every game that he started this year, you'd be up 1.97 units according to our friends at OddsShark. He has a 1.53 ERA, 0.92 whip, 29 and 2/3 innings. He's got 29 punch-outs, has only allowed 2 home runs, 6 base on balls. Meanwhile, in 5 starts for Chris Sale so far this year, he's won a total of 23 innings, 24 strikeouts, 28 hits allowed, and 6 home runs. And this is against the Tampa Bay Rays team that I feel like has a surprising amount of power. Going into this game, the Boston Red Sox has 29 home runs as a team this year, hitting 236. The Rays as a collective hitting 258 with 34 home runs, and Yandy Diaz is really getting the job done with the bat. 7 home runs, 14 RBI, hitting 279. Austin Meadows still out of the lineup. He's hitting 351 and 6 home runs with 19 RBI of his own, so obviously he's missed. They've been doing it without G-Man Choi as well, but with the Tampa Bay Rays, they've just found a way to make solid contact. Tommy Pham hitting above 300. You've even got Kevin Kiermaier, who's hitting much better than last year. Mike Zunino has picked it up with the bat. Avisail Garcia hitting right around 250. He's able to deliver some power. Brandon Lowe has been doing a nice job for this team as well. Guillermo Heredia and Willie Adames are leaving something to be desired at the bottom of the lineup, but all in all, things going very well for the Rays, and they've obviously got that lights-out bullpen. Meanwhile, with the Boston Red Sox, I just mentioned their bullpen woes. They have some guys that are picking up with the bats as well, though I will say I don't think that Tyler Glasnow is going to be leaving this game with a ERA below 1.5. I think that he's going to give up some runs, but there are some guys out there in the Boston Red Sox lineup that are really leaking in regards to their average. Jackie Bradley Jr. and Steven Pierce both hitting 143 or worse. Mitch Moreland, I know that he's been able to supply some power, but he's only hitting 217. JD Martinez was held out of the lineup yesterday. He's hitting 340. He has been the lone constant for this team. I will say that Rafael Devers and Xander Bogaerts have been getting the job done in regards to average and being able to hit a couple homers, but Christian Vasquez and Sandy Leon behind the dish, neither of those guys are hitting as well. I just think that this is a spot where you have to take a look at the Tampa Bay Rays. I know that they've got Joey Wendell currently on the 10-day injured list, but he wasn't performing either. And for the Red Sox, they're dealing with a bunch of injury issues themselves in the infield. Eduardo Nunez, Dustin Pedroia, and Brock Holt still all currently on the 10-day injured list, which has led to them having to play like Zhu Wei Lin out there in the infield and guys like that. It's just not going well for the Red Sox. This is a spot where I've got to take a look at the Tampa Bay Rays once again. This thing continues to get steamed up. I have no idea why. Money continues to come in on Chris Sale. Just start selling stock on the Red Sox whenever he's out there on the mound. Meanwhile, I have already taken this game over. I've locked it in. I think the Rays, just like everyone else, are going to be able to get to Chris Sale and going to be able to get to that bullpen. I do think that Gladstone's going to be able to give up a couple runs as well, but I think that the Rays are going to be pulling this one out. Rays in wait-and-see mode, over, already locked in. 967, 968 on the betting rotation. The Oakland A's are north of the border, facing off against the Toronto Blue Jays. Trent Thornton toes the rubber for the Blue Jays. I hear this guy has a nice bass on the front of his last name because it's Chris Bassett. Yes, that was supposed to be a joke. I don't think any of you guys are laughing, but we tried. The total on this game is 9, and it is shaded over. Over anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. The under is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. And right now, we're noticing that this line is moving a little bit, but the Toronto Blue Jays are anywhere between a slight favorite to a little bit of an underdog. The Toronto Blue Jays in some spots are as low as minus 106, and you can get as much of a plus price as plus 102 on them. Meanwhile, if you want to lay it here with the Oakland A's, you're going to be laying anywhere between minus 108 and minus 112. This line is moving quite a bit, obviously because of Vlad Guerrero Jr., and for that reason, when I was able to get the plus price with the Toronto Blue Jays, I already locked it in. The Toronto Blue Jays have really been kicking up their play about the past week and a half. They were able to sweep the Oakland A's in Oakland last week, and aside from those 2 games that they lost to the San Francisco Giants, this team has been straight gas. They've won 6 of their last 8 games, and those 2 losses, like I mentioned, were against the San Francisco Giants, and Vlad Guerrero Jr. has looked pretty good in his first 2 games as a Toronto Blue Jay. He was able to have a double in the 9th inning in that win on Friday as they were able to go ahead in that one. And then in the game yesterday, he went 1 for 4 at the dish once again. So all in all, he's able to provide a little bit of something. But the big find here was Randall Grichuk yesterday. He was able to have 3 hits, upping his average to 238. Much needed for the team. Brandon Drury seems to be doing a little bit of a better job with the bat. His 3 hits yesterday got him above the Mendoza line. They aren't getting a lot out of Teoscar Perez. He's only hitting 216, and Danny Jansen behind the dish only hitting a $185, along with Hansen out there in the outfield. He's also below the Mendoza line, but all in all, they are getting more production out of a lot of their players. Eric Sogard is hitting 400. He has been such a terrific addition to this team. Justin Spoke is hitting 280, and he's been able to supply some power, which has been not much needed because Freddie Galvis still currently out of the lineup. He's hitting 311, 5 home runs, 12 RBI, but Justin Spoke has 5 home runs to go with that 280 average. Meanwhile, for the Oakland A's, it's been a little bit of a power outage for this team recently. In games not played against the Baltimore Orioles or the Texas Rangers, the last time they have exceeded 4 runs was on April 7th. Yes, that is absolutely remarkable right there. Chris Davis is obviously able to supply some power. He's got 10 home runs, but he's only hitting 217 himself. Marcus Semien doing a great job at the top of the lineup. He's hitting 312. You've got Matt Chapman, who does a great job of being able to get on base himself. His average is 296, but you've got some struggling bats out there. Loreno has been able to come on with the 247 average, but Jurickson Profar, Nick Hundley, both hitting below the Mendoza line. You're not getting much out of Robbie Grossman at the top of the lineup. He's hitting 229. And then Stephen Piscotty has been very hit or miss all year long. He's been able to provide some power, but there are just some times where he's not able to hit. Mark Canha only hitting 216 as well. Chad Pinder has been very good for this team, but he wound up not being in the lineup yesterday. I am not quite sure why, so that's something that you want to take a look at because I know that they're already dealing with injuries to Nick Martini and Matt Olson, so that is something that you certainly want to monitor. I do think that this is another game that's going to go under. The Toronto Blue Jays have been getting some great pitching recently, and I have already locked in that under. And with Chris Bassett, he's probably going to be able to give a quality start. He wound up giving up no runs in 5 innings in his first start of the year against the Texas Rangers with 7 punchouts, but obviously this is going to be a completely different animal, and he did give up 4 walks in that game. Trent Thornton has not been good for the Toronto Blue Jays so far this year. 0-3, 5.79 ERA, 23 and a third innings pitched over the course of his starts, and he's given up 5 home runs, but he does limit the free passes, and with the way that the Oakland A's are struggling and the way that the Blue Jays have been great out of the bullpen, I do think that he's going to be able to do just enough to lead the Blue Jays to victory. So I've already locked both of these in. Blue Jays at a plus price and the under my plays here. 969, 970 on the betting rotation. It is the Detroit Tigers on the road facing off against the Chicago White Sox. Manuel Benuelos goes for the Chicago White Sox. Matthew Boyd on the bump for the Detroit Tigers. This game currently off the board. We have absolutely nothing to go off of. I can tell you right now, if there is a decent price on the Detroit Tigers, I might actually try to take a look at them on the run line, laying a 1.5. Manuel Benuelos had a decent start in his first start of the year against the Baltimore Orioles, but Matthew Boyd has essentially been a bankroll Cy Young Award winner so far this year. I say bankroll Cy Young because he's been making me a whole lot of money. So far, in his 5 starts, has gone 31 and a third innings, 2-1 record, 3.16 ERA, 39 strikeouts to only 9 walks. Opponents are hitting .202 off of him, and he's been doing a great job of not giving up hard contact. Only 2 dingers allowed. Right now, ESPN is showing Ronaldo Lopez as a starter. If that is the case, I'm certainly going to be fading them. If it's Manuel Benuelos, we're certainly going to be fading him as well, because Manuel Benuelos is, I would say, an okay starter in that game in which he started against the Baltimore Orioles. He obviously got a lot of run support as the Chicago White Sox was able to hang a 12 spot on him, but he seemed to get himself in a lot of trouble in 4 innings in that game. He did not give up a single run, but he did wind up giving up 5 hits. I believe that there was an error in that as well. He's got a 2.51 ERA, but like I said, he was actually coming out of the bullpen as a reliever earlier this year, and the last time he had pitched in the major leagues before this year with the White Sox was with the Atlanta Braves in 2015, so this is a very well-traveled man. I'm just not sure what we're going to be able to get out of Benuelos in this start. Meanwhile, I do know what we're going to be able to get out of Matthew Boyd here. I'm very curious on the total. If the total is, I would say, in the neighborhood of 9, I'm certainly going to take it under. If this total is more around 7.5, maybe 8, I'm going to take a look at an over, but it's just really hard to call at this point because you don't know how the juices are going to shake out and everything like that. So unfortunately, I don't have a lot on the total for you, but I'm certainly taking a look at the Tigers here. For official plays, when a line is posted, it's going to be up on my Twitter page at @unit_81. My apologies, just not much I can do with no line up on the board. 971, 972 on the betting rotation. It is the Baltimore Orioles in the Twin Cities to face off against the Minnesota Twins. Dylan, don't call me Al Bundy, goes for the Orioles. Meanwhile, for the Twins, Kyle Gibson on the bump. Total in this game is 8.5, and it is shaded over. Over is -120. Under is even juice. If you want to take a shot with the Baltimore Orioles, you're going to be getting a plus price of anywhere between +165 and +175. Juan laid here with the Minnesota Twins, going to be laying anywhere between -180 and -190. This is a spot where I know that Kyle Gibson is not necessarily the greatest pitcher of all time, but does anyone have any faith in Dylan Bundy at this point? Just take a look at his numbers for the year. He is absolutely atrocious once again. 0-3, 6.56 ERA, 23 and a third innings through his 5 starts. He has given up 7 home runs, 10 walks. He's got 26 strikeouts, which is nice, but he's got a whip of a 1.50. It's just hard to trust him. Meanwhile, Kyle Gibson, numbers aren't that great either. In 20 and 2/3 innings, he has 8 walks, has given up 23 hits. That's a whip of a 1.5. He's actually done a decent job of being able to maneuver out of some bases loaded situations, but he just has not been very good so far this year. I think that runs are going to be aplenty here. I am going to be taking a look at this total over. I certainly don't want to lay the -120 juice, so I'm going to wait for more of an unjuiced 9, or I'm going to wait to see if this ticks down to 8.5 at -110. But with both these teams, you got some very good hitters. Jorge Polanco is hitting .341. he has been terrific for this team. And Eddie Rosario providing the power. He's hitting .263, 11 home runs, 24 RBI. He has been sensational. Max Kepler was able to hit a home run yesterday against the Baltimore Orioles as the Minnesota Twins in those final 3 innings really were able to come alive. Jason Castro was able to hit a home run yesterday. Marwin Gonzalez, perhaps he's starting to emerge with the bat. He had a dinger of his own, and Kepler actually hit 2 home runs yesterday. CJ Cron is coming alive. Nelson Cruz hitting above 300. That's been a great sign for this team. Now, I will say that Adrianza is only hitting a .161. That's been a little bit of a woe, but Jonathan Scope seems to be coming alive as well. And then for the Baltimore Orioles, you actually do have some decent bats. Jonathan VR hitting .272. Trey Boom Boom Mancini now hitting .355. And Hanser Alberto, though he did wind up getting picked off at third base in their series against the Chicago White Sox, which is never good when you have the bases loaded, but he's hitting .299. He's been able to come alive. Dwight Smith Jr. hitting .278. He's got some power. Renato Nunez is hitting .287, and Rio Ruiz has even come on with the bat. We all know that Chris Davis is stinking it up, and you've also got guys like Severino and Jesus Sucre at the catcher spot that aren't doing a whole heck of a lot, but all in all, you do have a decent Baltimore Orioles lineup. I will say that the bullpen has been giving up the dingers left and right. One of the worst bullpens out there in the bigs. Meanwhile, to support Kyle Gibson, you've got one of the better bullpens out there in the major leagues. So for that reason, I'm looking at the Twins run line. I'm seeing that price anywhere between -105 and even juice. I'm currently waiting see mode to see if I can get a little bit of a plus price, even if it's just 105, just anything to make me feel good. And I'm going to be on this total over. Just don't want to lay the -120 juice at this point. I'm in wait and see mode to see if I can get an unjuiced 9 or if I can get a little bit more favorable juice on over 8.5, but going to be on the Twins run line and going to be on this total over. 973, 974 on the betting rotation. It is Homer Bailey Day as he is at home for the Kansas City Royals facing off against the LA Angels. The road team, the Angels, are trotting out their Matt Harvey against one Homer Bailey, and the Angels are a very, very slight favorite. Anywhere between -108 and -110. If you want to take a shot here on the Royals, you're going to be able to get anywhere between -107 and +105 as this number is moving, as I now see a -115 popping up for the LA Angels, and this is a spot in which I just have to take a look at the LA Angels on the run line. I'm right now seeing a run line price of the Angels at +145. I'd like to see if I can get it more around 150 or 155 because Matt Harvey, let's face it, he is not a very good starting pitcher at this point. This is not the Dark Knight that we all remember. He's currently 0-2. 8.03 ERA, 1.58 whip. In 5 starts so far this year, he's given up 5 home runs, 16 punch-outs in 24 2/3 innings. He's issued 10 walks. And Homer Bailey, he returned to form against the Tampa Bay Rays last week, as in his most recent start, he won a grand total of 1 inning, giving out 4 free passes and 4 earned runs in that start. He is 2-2 with a 5.63 ERA. He has returned to his normal self. He does have 27 strikeouts in 24 innings, but he gives out the walks, 11 free passes, and that's going to help out an LA Angels team that has actually really been emerging with the bats. This is an LA Angels team that, for the life of them, could not give Mike Trout any support whatsoever. Now Brandon Goodwin has emerged as a bat that can really be a force for this team. He's hitting above 320. He's been able to supply some power. Justin Bour is hitting below the Mendoza line. He's a guy that needs to pick it up. But Tommy La Stella actually providing some power. He's now hitting right around 250. He's been able to provide 6 home runs. Cole Calhoun, though, he's hitting right around 200 himself. 7 home runs, 16 RBI entering into Saturday. Daniel Fletcher hitting in the neighborhood of 300. Mike Trout has actually been slumping a little bit, but you know that at some point he's going to be able to pick it up. And then with the Kansas City Royals, they've got some decent power of their own. They just don't have a lot of guys outside of their first 4 hitters are hitting for a lot of average. Some of those guys at the top of the lineup, though, are doing a great job. Whit Merrifield hitting just below 300 along with Adalberto Mondesi. Both these guys are doing a nice job of getting on. And Alex Gordon and Hunter Dozier both hitting above 300. Alex Gordon going into Saturday had 5 home runs and 21 RBI. Dozier only 12 RBI, but a total of 7 dingers. But it's the bottom of the lineup for the Kansas City Royals that is absolutely killing them because they've got a whole bunch of guys who are just hitting below the Mendoza line that it's not even funny. I know that Ryan O'Hearn has some power, but when you're only hitting a $187, it doesn't do a lot of good. Martin Maldonado hitting below 190. Chris Owings hitting below 175. Lucas Duda hitting right around 300. Jorge Soler has come on. He's now hitting above 230, and he's been able to hit a couple dingers. But all in all, this is a very, very uneven lineup, to say the least. Outside the front four for the Kansas City Royals. They just don't have a lot of guys getting on base. So for that reason, I am all about the run line in the over in this spot, waiting to see if I can get a little bit more favorable number on the run line, and with the over currently at minus 120 juice, currently in wait and see mode to try to get more of an unjuiced 9.5, or try to see if it goes down more to minus 110 on that juice. But going to be on the over and going to be on the run line. 975, 976 on the betting rotation. The Texas Rangers are in Seattle to face off against the Mariners. Eric Swanson goes for the Seattle Mariners. Lance Lynn for the Texas Rangers. Total in this game is 8.5, and it is shaded over. Over is minus 120. The under is even. If you like the Seattle Mariners, you're going to be laying anywhere between minus 125 and minus 130. Meanwhile, if you want to take a shot here on the Texas Rangers, going to be getting anywhere between plus 114 and plus 120. This Texas Rangers team is one that I just want absolutely no part of whatsoever. They just have no starters out there other than Mike Minor that is really doing anything for this team. The bullpen is completely gassed, and the bullpen is not very good to begin with. I will say that the Texas Rangers are putting up runs, and they're putting up runs in bunches just because this is a feast or famine team that is led by a whole bunch of guys that are able to hit the ball out of the yard. We saw that yesterday with them being able to hang some very crooked numbers against the Seattle Mariners. Joey Gallo, for some reason, unbeknownst to me, has his average above 270. I think that that's going to be due in for some regression. Hunter Pence has been doing a nice job of being able to get on base, and you got to love what Elvis Andrus is doing. He's hitting above 350, 4 home runs so far this year. Getting Rougned Odor is great. He's still hitting below the Mendoza line, but just the fact that he's back in there and was able to have a 3 RBI home run yesterday, his first of the year, obviously huge for this team. But then you got guys like Noah Mazzara that you don't know what you're going to get. I will say that Sin-Chu Chu hitting above 300 and Danny Santana hitting in the neighborhood of 275 is good for the team. But you got Jeff Mathis, who's hitting a $140. Logan Forsythe has been doing a great job of drawing walks, but his average is down as well. You just don't know what to be able to expect from this team. Meanwhile, with the Seattle Mariners, you don't necessarily have a lot of guys that are hitting for great average. Going into Saturday, they didn't have a single guy hitting above 300, but Domingo Santana driving in the runs. Going into Saturday, 29 RBI. Jay Bruce with 9 home run, and everyone up and down the lineup is a threat to be able to go deep. I know that Ryan Healy's average isn't great, but he's a guy that time and time again hits for 25 home runs. Edwin Encarnacion is the same way. Mitch Haniger does a good job of just being able to find a way on base. You got like what D. Gordon is able to do, and then you've even got Thomas Murphy, who's hitting right around 400 for this team, even though it's been in only a couple of games. He's been doing a great job with just both average and power behind the dish. Malik Smith hitting below the Mendoza line has been a little bit of a woe, but Tim Beckham, even though he's a liability out there in the field, does a very good job of being able to get on base. This is just a spot where I have to trust in the Seattle Mariners. It's absolutely puzzling trying to figure out this Texas Rangers team, and I'm actually going to take this one on the run line. I think that Lance Lynn is going to get knocked around, and I think that the Mariners are going to be able to hang a lot of runs on them. Currently in wait-and-see mode on the over, but I've already locked in Mariners run line at minus a run and a half at plus 155. 977, 978 on the betting rotation. It is the Cleveland Indians in Houston to face off against the Astros. Wade Miley Party in the USA goes for the Houston Astros. That was my ode to Miley Cyrus, by the way. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And for the Cleveland Indians, Carlos Carrasco goes for the Indians. Total in this game is 8.5, shaded a little bit to the under. If you like the under, it's anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115, over anywhere between minus 105 and minus 110. The Astros, a slight favorite in this game. You're going to be laying anywhere between minus 125 and minus 113. This price is fluctuating a lot. Meanwhile, if you like the Indians, you're going to get anywhere between plus 103 and plus 115. I just don't have any faith in Carlos Carrasco at this point. I know that the injury that he suffered a few days ago when they were playing against the Miami Marlins was more precautionary than anything else, so he certainly should be fine in the start. But Wade Miley is a guy that I've actually really liked to back the past couple years. His 1-2 record is not indicative of how good of a player he's been. In 5 starts so far this year, 27 2/3 innings. He only has 18 punch-outs, but has only allowed 3 home runs and 5 walks in that time as well. His whip is a 108, so he does a very good job there. Meanwhile, Carrasco this year, in 21 innings pitched over the course of 5 starts, he's not been good. He's got a whip of a 1.52. His ERA is a 6. He's only given up 5 walks in 21 innings, and he does have 33 strikeouts, but he's just letting himself to way too much contact. 27 hits so far this year, and you've got a Houston Astros lineup that does a great job of just being able to find ways on base and just being able to get those quality hits, and they've got a bunch of guys that are able to hit home runs as well. George Springer so far this year has 8 home runs. Carlos Correa was able to go deep yesterday. That was his 6th. Jose Altuve has 9 home runs. He's only hitting 267, but you got to think that that's going to tick up. And up and down the lineup, the only guy that's really hitting below 230 for this team is Tony Kemp whenever he's in the lineup. I think that Tyler White might be there as well, and Max Stassi as well. And Max Stassi most likely not going to be behind the dish in this one. Alex Bregman hitting just below 300. Michael Brantley hitting 314. We all know about what Josh Reddick is doing. He's hitting 354. So you've got so many great bats. And for the Cleveland Indians, as a team, they're hitting below 215 for the year. It just has not really gone well for them. They do have Francisco Lindor and all those guys back in the lineup, and Carlos Santana hitting above 300. He's been a constant for this team. Leonis Martin does a great job towards the top of the lineup, hitting 242 with 5 home runs, but Jason Kipnis has not looked like himself ever since coming off the injured list with an average of 211. Jake Bauers is hitting 225. Both catchers, Kevin Plawecki and Roberto Perez, are both hitting below 225. Freeman at the shortstop spot is hitting 214. Taylor Naquin is hitting right around 250, and that's one of their better outfielders. Carlos Gonzalez hitting 282 as well. But all in all, you're just not getting a lot of anything out of this lineup in general. You got to think that the addition of Francisco Lindor is helping. He's hitting 259, and he's got a trio of home runs. But man, it's just hard to trust in this Cleveland Indians lineup so far this year. I do think that there are going to be a lot of runs, but I think that they're all going to be scored by the Houston Astros. So I'm currently in wait-and-see mode on this price because I'm noticing that there is some steam coming in on the Cleveland Indians, but I am all about the Astros, and I am all about the over in this spot. I think that Carlos Carrasco is going to get hit hard. Wade Miley probably going to give up 2 or 3 runs himself. I do think that at some point the Indians bats will start to come alive, and they're going to be able to score a couple, but all about the Astros, all about the over, just in wait-and-see mode as to what prices I'm going to get. And now we move on to the lone interleague game on the betting rotation and the last game on the rotation, 979, 980. It is Derek Rodriguez on the bump for the home San Francisco Giants as the New York Yankees are on the West Coast, and they bring out their Domingo Germán. The total on this game is 7.5, and it is shaded under. Under is -120. The over is even juice. If you like the San Francisco Giants, going to get a little bit of a plus price here, depending on where you look. I'm seeing the Giants as low as -103 and as high as +105. Meanwhile, if you want to lay it here with the New York Yankees, going to be laying anywhere between -111 and -115. I really like Derek Rodriguez as a starter, and I do think that Domingo Germán is starting to develop, but I still do have my issues with him a little bit just because you don't know what you're going to get in regards to command. In 25 2/3 innings, he does have only 8 walks and 28 punch-outs, but I do think that at some point it's going to come back to earth because Domingo Germán in his 5 starts, 4-1 with a 1.75 ERA and a .82 whip. I just think that this is a guy that you have to sell high on. Derek Rodriguez proved that he was a quality starter last year, and he's having a good year so far this year. He hasn't necessarily been lighting the world on fire, but in 5 starts, he's 3-2, 3.54 ERA. He's given up 4 home runs in 28 innings, 22 punch-outs. He's not a great plus stuff guy, but has only issued 5 walks, which is huge because obviously the New York Yankees, they're a little bit banged up in the lineup. They've got some guys returning, and DJ LeMahieu has been a constant for this team. He's hitting above 300. You like what you're seeing out of him, and Luke Voigt has been able to provide some power, and he's really been coming out with the average. For so much of the year, he was hitting 220 or lower. He has upped that to 265. He was able to give some power to this team throughout this West Coast road trip. And now they have Cameron Maybin in the lineup, which I think is very intriguing for the Yankees as well. He was able to have a hit in 2 at-bats yesterday against the San Francisco Giants. Gary Sanchez is back, only 82-31, but he had his 7th home run of the year in his return yesterday. And you got to think that guys like Mark Tauchman and company are going to be able to do a little bit of something, but Brett Gardner only hitting 229 himself, and Gleyber Torres only hitting 255. Meanwhile, with the San Francisco Giants, they've been a very light-hitting team. The only guy in yesterday's starting lineup that was hitting above 250 was Tyler Austin, and he's a guy that they actually traded for a couple weeks ago. Buster Posey's starting to come around with the bat. There was a time this year in which he was hitting below 200. He had 2 hits and 4 at-bats to up his average to 247. Good sign there. Eric Kratz was able to hit his first home run of the year, which is obviously a nice side, but Brandon Crawford still hitting 207. Gerardo Parra, 208. You don't like to see that. Brandon Belt is at 227. Emblem Longoria, 206. Kevin Pillar still below the Mendoza line, and though he hit that home run, Eric Kratz only hitting a $167. I will say, of all the guys on the San Francisco Giants team, perhaps the biggest surprise has been Pablo Sandoval. He was great when he was DHing in the games against the Toronto Blue Jays. For the year, he's hitting .300 with a pair of home runs. He's actually been a very good find for this team, and he looks to be a little bit back. So you got to think that he's going to get a couple at-bats in this game. This is a total that I see going over. I do think that the string of great starts for Domingo Germán is going to start to slow down. I've already locked in the Giants at the plus 105 price, and I've already locked in the over of 7.5 at even juice. I just think that Derek Rodriguez is going to give up a couple runs to the Yankees, but I do think that Domingo Germán is going to get touched up to a Giants team that, let's face it, is not hitting well, but seems to be emerging a little bit more themselves. So on the over and on the Giants, and that will do it for the Sunday edition of MLB Overtime Betting. A big thanks to our guest, Christian Pina, for joining me in the second segment. And if you like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, you can subscribe on Apple iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher. If you ever have a question for the podcast, feel free to tweet it in at @unit_81. And let's make today a fun, successful, and profitable one. And I'll talk at you guys once again on Monday. Thank you so much for tuning in.